Wow, I was sitting here thinking, like, wow, what major thing has happened that I really need to talk about? I completely forgot. It was something, whatever it was. I was just sitting here and came to me out of nowhere, a flash of lightning. Guilty Gear Strive is coming out on Nintendo Switch, right? Now, this in and of itself isn't that important because, like, this is a minor niche anime 2D fighting game. Nobody cares about Guilty Gear, right? The most notable thing about this release is that, like, Bridget is a man, right? That's all anybody really talks about, all anybody cares about, like, all anybody knows the franchise for, and yet, for some inexplicable reason, more than any other game I've seen over the past several years, there was this weird, insistent mindset among the Guilty Gear audience. No, Guilty Gear, it couldn't possibly release on Nintendo Switch. It's too weak. This anime 2D fighting game is way too intensive for this game, for this console that can only run something as simple and basic as Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Guilty Gear is too hardcore for the Switch. Joy-Con drift would ruin the entire thing, right? It was straight up delusional. And I probably would have commented on it more if I wasn't so, like, hyper fixated on talking about more relevant games. Stuff like Hogwarts Legacy, Doom Eternal, Mortal Kombat 11, right? Mortal Kombat 1 runs on Switch. Okay, so to see people, like, seriously pull this thing where they come out and try to say that, like, Guilty Gear couldn't possibly see an official release on Nintendo hardware, that was laughable long before it actually happened. People need to get out of that mindset that these ports aren't happening due to technical reasons, right? Nothing is stopping developers from putting these games on Nintendo hardware. The reason they're so blindly worshiping PlayStation hardware is because they're massive PlayStation shills, right? They want PlayStation to do better than Nintendo because they know that if Guilty Gear had to compete with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, it would 100% get destroyed. And it is still getting destroyed, right? Guilty Gear hasn't been relevant since, like, forever, right? So, like, again, this was a flavor of the month fighting game that only received some relevancy because, Tekken and Street Fighter and everything else has kind of fallen by the wayside in recent years, right? Guilty Gear is trash, okay? It is an example of just how Nintendo haters will latch onto any random franchise in order to, like, try and talk down about Nintendo hardware, right? Like, there is absolutely no way this game could not have run on Switch. Like, could not have been, like, a Switch exclusive, right? Like, there is no getting around it. Like, and again, like, I saw, like, someone seething about this on YouTube. I watched this YouTube video, like, oh no, this version of the game, instead of making the base game better, they spent resources on this and making sure that it had all the features. Yes, of course they did. They've been doing that forever. Developers cannot afford to outright ignore Nintendo platforms like they did 10, 20 years ago, right? It simply is not possible for them. They're going to still do that thing where they wait like 5 years to port a game over, right? And sometimes, One Piece Odyssey took like a year and a half. Ace Combat 7 took 5, right? But, like, companies cannot avoid the market leader like they used to, right? It simply isn't practical for them, right? They're completely ignoring the highly lucrative, successful Switch to support, like, the declining PlayStation brand. It's just not working out for them. Like, I know Trails and, like, Yeast have found tons of new fans on Switch. So, like, completely ignoring the Nintendo hardware isn't gonna work, especially for people like me who are adamant that who will never ever buy a PlayStation hardware ever again, right? So again, like, this is not unexpected. This is not some major surprise. This is not something that shocked me at all to see Guilty Gear get ported. But there are a lot of people in that small, tiny, irrelevant Guilty Gear community who genuinely thought this would never, ever, ever happen. Because Nintendo is the inferior platform, according to some trap enthusiast on Reddit. Like, what exactly makes Guilty Gear so hardcore that it couldn't run on Nintendo platforms? Like, what makes Tekken so great that it couldn't run on Nintendo platforms? Like, what makes Street Fighter 6 so great? Like, again, nothing. Again, there is absolutely nothing stopping these games from coming out on Nintendo Switch other than behind-the-scenes exclusivity deals and an inherent bias towards PlayStation, right? That's all this is. But it is worth acknowledging, like, how the spurging in regards to this, because it very clearly demonstrates that the bias against Nintendo among certain circles is still very much prevalent, right? It is insane to me that so many people out there seem to have gotten upset over a port of a mid 2D fighting game, right? People are legit upset that Arc System Works decided to release this on Switch, right? They're mad about it. They're upset. And like a simple look at on Reddit indicates that very well. You know, a simple look on YouTube, you know, in reaction to this announcement shows that very well. Is that that hatred and contempt of Nintendo is still alive and well in certain niche parts of the online gaming community. And I really wonder when it's going to die down completely. Because now it seems it's only like hardcore weebs in their 30s and 40s who like feel this way. Like, it doesn't feel like it's that prevalent among younger audiences at all, right? Like, these days when like idiots like Jakey come onto your YouTube chat and like try and tell you that like everything you like is bad, like, you know, your entire audience just kind of like dogpiles on him, right? For being an idiot, right? Because everybody knows that you're a pleb. Everybody knows you don't know what you're talking about. Everybody knows you're an ignorant little shit who has never played any of the classic, iconic Nintendo franchises, but still feel the need to like attack them anyway, right? Again, people know you don't know what you're talking about. But that wasn't necessarily the case with like the boomer generation. You know, people in their 30s and 40s who grew up being told that Nintendo was bad, that Sonic was totally cool, that the Genesis was better than the NES because of blast processing, right? People who bought all these marketing buzzwords, hook, line, and sinker, without knowing about what any of it meant, without ever realizing that, like, you know, the games themselves are actually better on Nintendo hardware. Like, again, people who don't have like the capacity to like really evaluate these games and like understand what makes them good or not good, or like, again, it's really interesting to see this continue to play out in the current year. But it is a declining mindset. That's the thing I find really interesting about this, is that like this isn't really a mainstream thing. It's a thing that exists among certain communities, but to say that like this is like the consensus of what Nintendo is like and like how people view them today is that would be wrong, right? This is a dying culture. You know, much like Guilty Gear itself, which is only kept relevant through simply having nothing else to play. Like, the fact that this audience has had to lower itself, to degrade itself, in order to complain about a port to Nintendo hardware, that really goes to show you just how far the Nintendo hate community has fallen in recent years.